Hello and welcome to round 13 of the Milltek Sports Civic Cup. We've already had qualifying, we've already had practice. This is the first race of the weekend, and you join in the holding area. Actually, we're not yet ready to go. You can see that we've got the cars behind us with Morgan Bailey on pole position. We had a quick chat with him after qualifying, which was live on Alpha Live and the Civic Cup YouTube channel. We also had a chat with him on a recording, so social media interview, so you can go back and check the Facebook page if you want to have a quick word with him. The driver I'm interested to have a chat with, if he's available, is Matt Luff, because Matt, although qualifying in second place, he wanted pole position, obviously. He was very close. But his main championship rival, Alistair Camp, who's currently leading the championship, all the way down in fourth position. I want to see if there's a story there. Matt, are we okay to have a quick chat?
Yeah, of course.
You must be fairly pleased with second. I know you wanted that pole, but your main championship rival, all the way down in fourth.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with the result. On my second stint in quali, I went out there and I was 0.04 up coming into Druids. Thought, okay, this is the lap, here we go. And I just missed the apex and run wide. And I come out of it and I was like, oh, I'm a 10th back, so I gave up on that one. But yeah, no, I'm happy with second place. Even better that Ali's 2 places behind me. But yeah, no, I mean, the aim is to win it. So I'm not worried about where he is right now. I'm just focusing on winning the race.
Well, Morgan Bailey was particularly quick, wasn't he, in that qualifying? It's not like he just put one time in. He put in about 3 or 4 that just kept pushing the bar higher and higher. Is he a driver that you're sort of hoping to work together with? Has that been a conversation?
I mean, all the drivers say, oh, let's work together. And then before you know it, we're lunging and changing position straight away. I think in a race like this, you've got to be, especially around Brands Hatch, you've got to be very careful when you're attacking and you're defending. I think that my aim will be to push with him at the start. And if we've got a gap from behind, then I'll start making moves. But until that happens, I'm happy to sit behind for a couple of laps and get a bit of a gap.
Is there any difference between how you're approaching this weekend and how you approached the Brands Hatch that we had a couple of rounds ago? Because, of course, this is the second time we've been here. The second time you've raced it. I mean, I know you were racing last year as well, obviously. But is there sort of, with the championship in mind, is there anything in mind that you sort of think differently? No,
not at all. The aim is always to win. Regardless of, I'll be told I've got to get ready. Yeah, regardless of where other people are, the aim's always to win. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go and try and do now.
Yeah, and you go and try and put your helmet on as well. Thank you very much, Matt. Sorry, Mr. Marshall. Yeah, the engines are being fired up now, so it means we can't really get any chat with any other drivers. But one driver to note is a driver who's actually got a packet of chips in his hand and a nice little chair next to him. That's Simon Welch. Unfortunately, he's blown an engine, apparently. So, Simon, I could have a very quick chat with you if you're willing. I know you're a little bit camera shy from before, but you've practiced now. Talk us through your qualifying. Why are you sat in an armchair?
Basically, the bottom end of the engine's gone, so it's knocking, and I don't want to damage it any further.
Is that because you sort of want it ready for potentially Snetterton?
If I can rebuild it in time, yes.
Fair enough.
But it depends on timing.
Are you a bit gutted, though, not to be... I mean, I'm amazed you haven't packed up and just gone home, to be honest. Are you hoping to stick around and support the rest of the guys?
I'll support them for at least the next race. I may stay to the end. I don't know yet.
Well, by the looks of it, you got a packet of chips anyway, so I don't blame you for having your lunch whilst watching some great racing in the Civic Cup. Thank you very much for having a chat to us. As you can hear, some of the Japanese cars are firing up behind us. The Civic Cups are also about to get ready. There's a fantastic array of cars that we've got here today. I wish we could have a chance to chat to more of them, but there will be opportunity after the race. We'll be speaking to the Race 1 winners for the production and the Cup category. Apologies about that. The drivers are about to get going, so I think it's about time that we throw to an advert break, so I have a little bit of time to get up to the commentary box.
For voice and data solutions at speeds that are simply out of this world, choose Maximum Networks. For voice and data solutions at speeds that are simply out of this world, choose Maximum Networks.
Well, I am back in the commentary box, and it's round 13 of the Milltek Sports Civic Cup that is on its way for your entertainment. If you're here in person, then, well, I'm sure you're looking forward to it as much as I am. If you're tuning in on the YouTube channel, then please do let us know. If you're on the Civic Cup YouTube channel, whether you're on the Alpha Live YouTube channel, we'll be checking the comments as and when. My name is Jack Oliphant. Well, you just saw me if you were watching the YouTube channel. And I am your host for this afternoon for the Milltek Sports Civic Cup. We'll be able to bring you through the grid order whilst the cars are on their green flag lap going round. Morgan Bailey is on pole position. In fact, lovely, we've got it on screen as well. Matt Luff is in second place. Row number 2 is filled by 43 Jack Harding and number 1 Alistair Camp. Row 3, 29 Dan Thackeray is alongside 42 Will Redford. Row 4, 54 Harvey Caton and 33 Max Edmondson. Row 5, 140 Matthew Cripps and 71 Josh Harvey. Row 6, 51 Daniel McDonald and 98 Jordan Brennan. Row 7, 19 Jeff Alden and 70 Owen Hillman. And then we have a bit of a break until we see the production class. So we have a row in between, but Louis Hansel was on pole for the production with Alfie Jakins alongside him. Simon Welch was supposed to be in third place for the production class, but unfortunately, as we just heard from him on the broadcast, his engine has unfortunately failed. Reese Lewis is supposed to be in 20th place, but I'm not entirely sure whether we actually have Reese Lewis. He's been having car problems all weekend. I'm not sure whether number 44 is going to be joining us for the first race of the weekend. There are already 2 races for the Milltek Sports Civic Cup today. A bit of a shame that we don't see them try and take to the grid for a 3rd time, but we do have a top 10 reverse grid coming up on your screens in about 3 hours' time. So if you're here in person, it's well worth sticking around for. Trust you me. A little bit of a brief of the championship, just to give you a breakdown of it. On pole position, Morgan Bailey, he is 4th in the championship. Dan Thackeray is 3rd in the championship. Matt Luff, who's currently starting on 2nd, he is 2nd in the championship. And I believe Alistair Camp, who's 4th on the road, is leading the championship, but only just. As the engine notes rise and the lights are out and we are racing. It's a great start by Morgan Bailey, a great start by Matt Luff as well, with Alistair Camp trying to go from 4th into 3rd around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. And that means it's not a particularly brilliant start for Jack Harding, of course. He's only taken a few guest appearances in the championship so far this season. Camp couldn't get round him. Harding's going defensive, but the 2 drivers at the front of the field don't need to worry about that, because Bailey's gone very well, and into the gravel, though, is one of the Pro Alloys cars. Who is that? Is that the number 42, Will Redford? It was indeed. Will Redford, from 6th on the grid, is now probably oh, is that contact with his teammate, the number 70? That would be a bit of a disaster. Owen Hillman, who did have problems in qualifying, he ended up coming into the pits quite a few times, and unfortunately doesn't seem to have had his race start any better than his qualifying either. With Morgan Bailey getting away, though, he's probably looking at his rearview mirrors, fairly happy with how his race started. There's Louis Hansel. He was on pole for the production class. Doesn't look like his car is particularly healthy either at the moment. So a couple of stricken cars to start with. But as I said, Bailey and Luff, as they were going through Paddock Hill Bend for the 2nd time. And it looks like Harding has managed to hold on to that 3rd place, with Dan Thackeray overtaking Alistair Camp. There is Camp and Thackeray. The 29 is Thackeray. He's in the sort of white, black and green car, whereas the Alistair Camp in the unmistakable area motorsport machine, trying to get through Graham Hill Bend, and well, not particularly. It looked like Alistair Camp was going for 3rd place at one point, but after he failed to get the move done and dusted, he ended up coming up a bit of a cropper, and that's what happens here at Brands Hatch Indy. It's one of the reasons why so many people like racing here, and once so many people like racing in Civic Cups as well. I saw a yellow flag waving, and that is potentially why. The number 140, Matthew Cripps. Now, I think that was going through Clark Kerr, looking out my window. I think it may well have been. And we also have a Pro Alloys car in the pit lane as well. We'll try and keep up to date with who exactly that is. The 140 Cripps confirming, if you look on the left-hand side, flowing down the order on the timing tower on the left. Harding is throwing a lot at this. Matt Luff, I don't think really expected this, to be honest. He was talking we had a quick chat with him in the holding area. He was talking about getting onto the back of Bailey, almost working together to get away. He did say, though, that's always an ideal, and it never actually happens. He said that he'll probably try and lunge Bailey here, there, if he can, but he doesn't seem to be able to get close enough at the start of this race, whereas Harding, it's like maybe he has a little bit underneath him. He did look very loose going around Paddock Hill Bend on the exit a couple of, maybe a lap ago, though, Harding, so you can tell that he's pushing a lot and asking a lot of his tyres at the same time. Might not be the optimal way to keep the car lasting throughout the entire weekend, but he's certainly putting a move on the championship contender. Matt Luff just about seeing it at the very last minute, and there goes Harding off on the outside of Paddock Hill, well, on the entry to Paddock Hill. You wouldn't be surprised the fact that that's how he ended up. Luckily, he got back on the circuit, but, well, if he joins the championship in full next year, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he cracks on, because he's certainly trying his best. He's being entertaining. He'll have a lot of dirt on his tyres now, though, which is a bit of a shame. Full sideways into Paddock Hill Bend quite often is not going to result in the move that you were hoping for. And, yeah, Harding, who did say that this is a new challenge. He's used to BMW Compact Cup. It's a series that he raced in before, so full rear-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive is definitely new territory for him. He doesn't do any testing. He's only appeared in a handful of rounds so far this season, one of which was Brands Hatch earlier in the season. But yeah, that's a big shame, because there was a potential podium on for him then, and maybe there's an argument to say he got a little bit freedom. So 11 minutes to go. It's been a bit of a frantic start so far. Just having a look to see if I can get up who's exactly in the pit lane on the TSL timing. Unfortunately, it's being a touch slow again, but leading the production class is Alfie Jenkins. Louis Hansel, we saw, is now actually 2 laps down. We saw Louis having a little bit of a problem. That's a real shame, actually. We had a chat to him after putting it on pole position, and he was really excited to get on and get racing here at Brands Hatch after starting in the Motorsport MSUK Academy this year, and apparently only 20 drivers managed to actually get onto that course, and he didn't originally, but he appealed a couple of times and he got back going. Crikey, there is a little bit of a moment there, not for Dan McDonald driving behind. Is that the 140? No, it's not the 140 of Cripps, is it? Can't quite see. It's one of the production class cars anyway, that's for sure. There's Dan McDonald going into Paddock Hill. Looks like he's got a bit of a gap to him and the driver behind anyway, whoever it is. Hillman and Hansel, I was about to say, are the 2 drivers that are currently in the pit lane. They're a couple of laps down now, unfortunately. That means Jenkins is the only production class driver that's actually left running. So by process of elimination, we can guess that it was Jenkins who was trying to close down on McDonald. If you missed why Simon Welch wasn't actually racing with us on this particular event, unfortunately he blew his engine in qualifying, didn't want to make it any worse, didn't think he could fix it in time for this race, so he's sat with an armchair, well, in a pop-up chair with a packet of chips, sorry, a burger, and is here to support now only, unfortunately. But we're hoping that he gets the car fixed in time for Snetterton. Going through Druids, is there a move on? There is a move, and that's, I think that's the 33 of Max Edmondson being overtaken by the 43 of Jack Harding, a recovering Jack Harding. Edmondson's not letting him have it all his own way, forcing him to the outside of Graham Hill Bend. Can Harding get the cutback? Just because he didn't drive in front-wheel drive cars earlier in his career doesn't mean he doesn't know how to race around Brands Hatch. You know that you have to set these moves up early. You have to put these drivers off the track, and 30 is very nearly is Max Edmondson. I had to just stutter over my words there just to make sure that they didn't end up having a massive crash. Luckily they didn't. Great spatial awareness from both these drivers. Flames spit out of the back of the Japanese hatchbacks here. Jack Harding managed to get the move done and dusted into Paddock Hill. He's going, I wouldn't argue that's defensive, but maybe slightly narrower in to try and just cover off any sort of ambitions that Edmondson was having, but not everybody's as ambitious as Harding. Maybe that he's learning, and maybe there's good reason for it. He's actually had his rear bumper ripped off there as well. I imagine that's something to do with the fact that he went rally crossing on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend all those laps ago, which is why his front end is a little bit dirty as well. But he seems to have cleaned his tyres rather efficiently, and they don't seem to have flat spotted too badly either, because he is making his way through the order. He's up to 6th position. A little way to catch up to Caton, although actually when you look at it like that, when they just pass through your screen, it doesn't look like that far away at all, does it? So keep an eye out for Harvey Caton in the 54 as we're looking at Edmondson. We did actually have a chat with Edmondson earlier on. You could be able to probably find it on the Milltek Sports Civic Cup page if you are interested to see how his season's going. I don't think, a little bit of a spoiler, I don't think Edmondson really was very keen to tell us how his season's going, because I believe he's only finished 5 out of the 11 races that he's participated in. Well, he's hoping to call that 6 out of 12 after this round. He didn't make 2 of the rounds, because of course this is round 13, but he is hoping to make it 6 out of 12 that he finishes, which again is a slight improvement, but it's not ideal if you're entering into a full series. He is hoping to be back, though, next year. A little bit more fight about him, a little bit more guile, a little bit more speed as well, but most importantly, a little bit more consistency. A lot of the problems he's had have been mechanical, and that is just motorsport, unfortunately. These things happen. A little bit of a lock-up there for Morgan Bailey. Just heard a little bit of a screech. Now, there's an argument that could be that it was just his right rear tyre just sort of popping up as the car turned in, but he seems to be loving life out there at the moment. The fastest lap of the race has gone to Matt Love. I do believe that means he has a championship point to his name as well, unless somebody takes that off him, with a 53.271. Pole position time was actually obviously Morgan Bailey, but with a 53 dead. So about a couple of tenths off at the moment, but that is to be expected slightly in a race. Not pushing as hard, especially if you're already in a good position with a little bit of a gap behind you. Harvey Caton has already been overtaken by Harding. Apologies if I missed that and it was on camera, but that means that Harding is already back into the top 5. It is a real shame that we haven't seen him for the entirety of this season, because he looks like a driver that can really handle this Civic Cup, and in fact, I can tell you that he can, because of his best lap time so far, even though he's been in the wars and he's been overtaking people, a 53.322. Now, oh, just as I was about to say, that's very quick. I will focus, though, on 71 on another driver, but this one is definitely a guest driver. The 71 of Harvey, that's Jack Harvey, unfortunately. Sorry, Josh Harvey, my apologies. The Pro Alloys racing car, the 71, is pretty much always exclusively driven by a guest driver, and that's exactly what Harvey's done today. Unfortunately, he's also put it into a wall somewhere. Now, I think it was Clark Curve, potentially. I don't think it was Paddock Hill, because if it was at Paddock Hill, one, I'd be able to see it. Oh, it is Paddock Hill, it's at the top. Yep, sorry, there was a bar in my way, so it is at Paddock Hill. Normally, they would chuck a safety car out there. Fortunately, we haven't had that just yet, and hopefully we continue. He is right next to a very recoverable position, so fingers crossed maybe that they think it's safe enough there. So Dan Thackeray, he is 3rd in the championship. He's also 3rd out there on circuit. There's a nice bit of symmetry there for those of you out there with a little bit of an OCD. His main rival for the championship is the man that's leading, though, which is Morgan Bailey. Morgan is in 4th place. Dan Thackeray is in 3rd place. But if you go then actually on drop scores, it's a little bit confusing because they base it on championship points, and then there are dropped scores as well. And so actually Morgan Bailey on dropped scores, which is the one you really have to pay attention to when it comes to the penultimate round of the championship, it's actually ahead of Dan Thackeray with 178 points, and Dan Thackeray with 172 points. So it's a little bit complicated. If you go on the Civic Cup website, it is slightly, it's put the other way, but you do have to look at the dropped score to get the full picture of how the championship is shaping up. Alistair Camp is a driver that really hasn't, I suppose, lived up to the reputation that had preceded him. We thought that he was definitely going to be at the front, he was definitely going to be potentially on pole position. He didn't get pole position, he ended up qualifying in 4th. Maybe it was an unlucky qualifying session. Maybe his race pace will turn true. Well, his race pace hasn't been particularly quick either. He is 1.6 seconds back from Dan Thackeray, and pretty much every single lap he's been maybe a tenth slower. So Alistair Camp, certainly not been his day so far. I did see, as we were going around to do the social media interviews earlier on, I did see his car up on jacks. The car a little bit smoky, but they're basically running it, trying to go to full throttle. And I was told that they were bedding in some new brakes. I'm just wondering if there was maybe a little bit of a hint of something else going on with that car. Maybe there's a little bit of a problem, or whether Alistair just hasn't been able to get it together. But we know he can drive in a Civic. We know he can drive around Brands Hatch. So realistically, it's a bit odd that he hasn't been able to quite get on the pace with the other drivers. The 754, it's about to fly past on your screen, there we go, is Alfie Jenkins. As I mentioned before, he is the only production class car out there on the circuit, with unfortunately the other two, well, Simon Welsh DNSing, he didn't start, and Hansel, unfortunately, being stricken by a problem that I was just trying to remember, but I don't think we actually saw what happened to Alfie Hansel. Maybe we'll have a chat with him afterwards and be able to bring you up to date with it for race number 2. So with 2 minutes to go, there's a 2-second gap between 1st and 2nd place. And Morgan Bailey, I did say in qualifying that it looked a bit intimidating for the rest of the drivers, because really, he didn't just do one flying lap, did Morgan Bailey. He, after the red flag, he went out, he put one flying lap in, then he improved it by a tenth, then he improved it by a tenth, and he put about 3 or 4 laps in that really did improve on each other, and every time someone else came a little bit closer, he would just extend that margin. And I think that is why we're seeing him be able to do it in the race as well. He's just hot lapping at the moment. Put a bite to the cherry as they go through Druids there, but didn't seem to bother him too much. Matt Luft's car looking a little bit more stable. We did only catch them for potentially one corner. Having a look at Jack Harding's times over the past couple of laps, he is a touch quicker, well, he's a lot quicker actually, than the likes of Dan Thackeray. That gap between himself and Alistair Camp has come down by, well, it's come down to 1.7 seconds. I believe it's 2.5 seconds at one point. So with only 40 seconds left to go, I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for Harding. But he's shown good pace, and I'm sure that he'll enjoy race number 2, which of course is a top 10 reverse grid. At the moment, the driver that's going to take advantage of that is Alden, who's currently running in 10th. Jordan Brennan, McDonald and Redford will be rounding out the top 2 rows apart from that. So there's an argument to say that actually Harding, if he wanted a race victory, it's not been the end of the world for him this particular race, because he is able to start ahead of all of his rivals for race number 2. Morgan Bailey, though, I've mentioned him quite a lot, but realistically, he's not put a foot wrong. I haven't mentioned him for the wrong reasons. We've only had glowing compliments to tell about the number 26 driver, and as he rounds out the final couple of corners, I believe we're going to have a checkered flag for him. Indeed, the checkered flag is about to fly for Morgan Bailey, who takes the race victory at round 13 here in the Milltek Sports Civic Cup, and he'll be very excited about it, I'm sure. He was pleased with pole. He'll be buzzing about a race victory. Second place, Matt Luff. He said in his interview that he was always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Second in the championship, the most amount of seconds in the championship so far, and it's another second for him here today. Dan Thackeray is 3rd on the road, and Alistair Camp in 4th. Now, it's not a terrible result. It's certainly not championship results, and he hasn't got many drop rounds to be dealing with. Matt Love has taken the initiative. He's taken it to Alistair Camp, and maybe Camp will start feeling the pressure a little bit. Harding managed to recover and finish up in 5th position. Edmondson was in 6th. Redford ended up in 7th place after that earlier off. Now, I think it was something to do with potential contact with his teammate Hillman. They both went off the road at Druids on the first lap, so that's all I can assume. I didn't actually see it. McDonald was in 8th, Brennan was in 9th, Alden was in 10th, and we'll start from pole position, I believe, for race number 2 this afternoon. It starts at about 5 to 6. Krypton 11th, and Alfie Jenkins takes the production class victory. In 13th was Harvey Caton. And then the drivers who unfortunately didn't finish, Hansel said that he's only 2 laps down, so maybe Hansel got back out there. That would be nice to see. Harvey was 7 laps down, and Hillman was 12 laps down. Didn't make the race start. I can see the drivers are starting to pull in towards the pit lane, and that's where I should be, because I'm going to go and have a chat to our race victors from both Cup and production class. We're going to chuck to a very short break.
For voice and data solutions at speeds that are simply out of this world, choose Maximum Networks.
And you join me down in the pit lane, and that's because I've got a host of drivers ready to have a chat to. We're going to focus on the two top step podium sitters of, first of all, Morgan Bailey. Morgan come through, a race victor in the Milltek Civic Cup. We had a chat to you earlier on about pole position. Now it's a race victory. You must be buzzing with that.
Yeah, pleased to convert that pole into a win. It's always a bit extra pressure when you're sat on pole position with nobody else in front of you. But we managed to get a good start. Straight away put a gap between me and Matt, which I was happy with, and then managed that gap the whole race. Brought it home, P1.
Sounds very simple, doesn't it? When I mean, racing, it's not hard, is it, this sport? I mentioned it in the qualifying, how it wasn't just one lap that you put in. You were able to put in 2 or 3 or 4 flying laps. Every single one of them was just about half a tenth quicker. You sort of played it down. You just did it in the race, and it just took home. It's a 2-second gap in the end. I mean, that is very, very good, let's say.
Yeah, we every lap consistently we sort of seemed to be 3 tenths slower than the qualifying lap, which to keep that consistent pace for the 15 minutes I was happy with, because you're never going to do 15 minutes of qualifying laps. So yeah, I was happy with that. Yeah.
Did you enjoy seeing a little bit of a gap? Were you worried about Matt Luff at any point? Because obviously, yeah, the first couple of laps, you know, after the start, you were flying, but realistically, was there an opportunity for Luff to maybe have a little bit of a nibble at you?
Yeah, the first couple of laps, Matt was sort of in striking distance, but he couldn't keep the pace, and we managed to put the gap there, which I was happy with. Didn't have to think about defending, just concentrate on not making any mistakes.
Well, you certainly put Dan Thackeray under pressure, which of course is your closest championship rival, aren't you? You mentioned that you're not really thinking about it at all, which is what every racing driver says. Are you going to tell me any different now?
No, we're just trying to keep getting podiums all year. Continue that for the final meeting at Snetterton, and then see where we end up. With a couple of races to go, we'll maybe have a look. Yeah.
Any small changes on the car that you think you're going to make, is there, or do you reckon that's pretty on point right now?
There's a few little bits we'll look at, but I was happy with the car, yeah.
Fantastic. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Big thanks, Havercroft Construction, Attis Insurance. They all make it possible. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Congratulations, Morgan. And we might be speaking to you after reverse grid in race number 2. You never know. Right, we've got a little bit of time because I believe we've got trophies on the way, but they're not quite here yet. So, Matt, why don't you come and have a quick chat with us as well? Matt Luff, obviously second place on the road. All in all, a fairly successful drive for you there, and there was a little bit of a moment, wasn't there? Was it Jack Harding just behind you? Very close to being a bit of a mess.
Yeah, no, I think it was, what, lap 2 or 3? He started coming at me and he put a pretty mighty lunge on me. And I closed the door and we were side by side going around paddock and we just touched bumpers. I think as he caught it, it just spat him out into the gravel. But I think he recovered to 5th, so fair play to him. But yeah, I mean, second place, I can't complain. It would have been nice to get the win, but I just didn't quite have the pace to keep on the back of Bailey. Even if I was that little bit closer, I might have been able to make a lunge. But yeah, he was just that little bit quicker, so not today. But I'm happy to keep Dan Thackeray behind me. I had a little moment coming up to Surtees where I locked up and they missed the gear. And all that gap that I had, he closed up on me, and I thought, oh God, not again. But yeah, no, I managed to hold him off and pull away again. So yeah, happy with second place.
I was going to say second place must feel pretty good when you know that your championship rival was, again, not on the podium, finished in 4th place. Apologies if you can't hear us. We're going to crack on anyway, though. Yeah, Alistair Camp, we don't want to harp on about him too much, because obviously your success are your success. But it's quite nice, maybe from your perspective, to see that gap close just a touch.
Yeah, I'm told I got the fastest lap as well. So that will bring it down to 1 point between us currently, which is extremely close. Obviously, he will have the advantage in the next race in the reverse grid. He'll start 4th, I think, or 5th. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it is a bonus that he's a little way further back. At the end of the day, he's still in contention, and he's still a very quick driver, so I can't count him out.
Well, brilliant. Congratulations on the second place. Matt, hopefully we'll be having a chat with you afterwards. Oh, come back. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just all my sponsors and supporters for coming down, and my friends and family. I mean, it means a lot for them to be here, and it helps out a bunch, so yeah, very grateful.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations, Matt. Now, I'm not sure. I'm just having a look behind the cameras. I'm not ignoring you people, don't worry. I'm just having a look to see if we're ready to do the podiums or whether we're going to quickly do an interview with Alfie Jenkins. I haven't done Dan yet. No, we can bring Dan Thackeray in. That's absolutely fine. Dan, congratulations on the 3rd place. All in all, from the camera's perspective, it looked a little bit sort of quiet for you. Is that how it was from your perspective?
Yeah, it was kind of stalemate, wasn't it? After the first lap, I managed to get Camp on the first lap, which was really important. And then when Harding and Luff had their little moment T1 and it made Jack go a little bit wide through the gravel, that was my opportunity to get into P3. I mean, I was very close. I think me Matt and Morgan were kind of equidistant the whole race. I didn't quite have enough to shut him down. I'd do a temp on him and then he would get it back, and it was kind of, fortunately when you have that gap after lap 1, there's not too much you can do when we're so evenly matched.
I was going to say, your lap 1 as well, there was an opportunity going into Druid's second corner of the entire race where, sorry, actually it might have even been Paddock Hill with Alistair Camp looking to the outside of you, because you didn't, I mean, there was an opportunity, wasn't there, with Harding not having the best start. Was there your thoughts sort of to try and follow Camp through, or were you trying to get both of them?
Well, yeah, the awkward thing about Brands Hatch is where the barriers are so close to the circuit, when you get a good start, is you're kind of relying on other people to have there to be space, essentially, and there wasn't. And I don't know if Jack had maybe missed a gear or something. He slowed off the start line, and it meant that it was impossible for me to do anything. He actually, I think it helped him keep his place to Camp, to be honest. And yeah, I made an upside move into Druids from Camp, was able to hold it through Druids into Graham Hill, and then that was me ahead of him, and luckily I think Matt and Morgan made pull away a little gap from him, which made my life a little bit easier. I didn't want him hunting me down too much.
I was going to say, main championship rival, we haven't actually had a chat to you so far today, have we? So I've chatted to Morgan about you a lot, but now I can chat to you about Morgan. He says he's not worried about the championship. Are you calling that bluff? Do you think he's looking at it every so often?
I've seen his spreadsheet out. I know. I've seen him. No, I mean, for me and Morgan, we're very close in points, and I think we've been a bit unlucky with mechanical issues this year, which has meant that we're a bit behind top 2. And for us, it was kind of the only way you're ever going to have a chance is to get a good haul of points on both in front. Morgan's just got some serious pace today, and he's doing a better job today, closing some points down. Maybe I've helped myself a little bit, but not enough, I don't think, to be honest. Need more.
I was going to say, there's always a reverse grid race though, isn't there? Is that something you're targeting now? Are you really going to try and put some distance on those early laps to try and carve through?
Well, with the reverse grid, the start is so important. It's kind of a lottery of what happens in front of you and around you. You can have all the plans in the world and they go to pot with some bit of contact on the first corner, first lap even. So we'll see where we are at the end of lap 1, I would say, and it will give me a judge of what's possible. Hopefully I've gained a few places, but I'll try my best.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having a chat to us, Dan. And I believe we've got time for one more interview. I'm just getting the okay. Alfie Jenkins. Come over here, Alfie. It's very rare. Well, yeah, we can do them both if you want. Yeah, we can always get Louis Hansel over here as well. But we'll focus on you to start with, Alfie. That was, I mean, in the end, you were one of a few drivers that actually finished in your class, weren't you? But you kept it consistent. You scored the points. You must be fairly pleased.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the win, obviously. Led from the start to the finish. Got a great start. I managed to jump Louis off the start as well. But unfortunately, I had a bit of contact with the cup cars ahead of us. So, but yeah, the team got him back out after he had to pit, and still got on the podium. So that was great for him as well. So yeah, it was good racing all.
I was going to say, was there any setup changes that you had to do between qualifying and the race, or is it just a case of maybe you didn't quite get the time that you wanted out the car in qualifying to pit Louis, or was there any sort of difference going into this one?
There's not much difference, to be honest. It's like just a few PSI here and there in the tyres, and like slightly different setups on different cars, and cold tyres, cold track, all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, all adds up to a good lap.
Well, congratulations, Alfie, on the race victory here in the production class, of course. I believe we've got time for one quick chat with Louis. Louis, second place in the production. Obviously, we've had a chat to you a couple of times now about your pole lap. Talk us through what happened on the opening, though.
Alfie got a better start than me. It was on the outside, and obviously I wanted to stay like side by side and hopefully ahead. But going up to the top Druid's corner, I just made a mistake, braked too late, locked up and went into another drive. It's just an honest mistake, just what it is.
Well, it is what it is. A very good way of putting it, shall we say. You got back out, though, didn't you? You ended at 2 laps down, but you got back out, you started rotating the circuit. Was it just a case of ripping a bumper off or something?
Yeah, they just put some tape on. It was rubbing on the tyre a bit, so I had to come in, otherwise it would rip the tyre up. So yeah, just put some tapes to make sure it didn't do that, then just go around and just not get in anyone's way, stayed out the way, I hope, of everyone. So yeah, just going around the circuit and just, yeah.
Fair enough, yeah, that's a fairly good way of putting it. So the car is okay?
Yes, we've got to string it and check everything, but yeah, it'll be all right, I think.
Well, you got a couple of hours until the next race. Congratulations, Louis, on the second place. Right, I believe that's all we've got time for here at the Milltek Sports Civic Cup. I do believe they're about to do the podium up above us, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get a camera angle on that. Fantastic. Well done to all the drivers, and fingers crossed you guys will come back and tune in to the Milltek Sports Civic Cup later on at about 5 to 6.